Uh-oh. You want to take the pictures off?
Sure.
Welcome to Up Close, Meet the Poet Behind the Verse. I am your host, River Maria Urke, and here to help me pull this off is a mutual poet, Julie Martin. Up Close showcases a new poet each month by focusing on introducing the person behind the poems. I would like to ask Zoom to remain muted during the duration of the show. We encourage audience questions. You can put in the chat. Also, we support our authors, their work, and so we like to do giveaways. And today we will be having one of those, and we'll mention the details later. So I like to give a shout out to our sponsors, LUMP, the League of Minnesota Poets, and remind us that we're being recorded and we're on Facebook Live. With that, I'd like you to sit back and enjoy. I'd like to introduce our September Up Close poet, Tony Plocido. He's a native from Minneapolis. He graduated from Richfield High and currently lives in Hopkins. Many of you know Tony as the host of Poets and Pints. But did you know he teaches workshops on how to perform poetry? And that he himself is an exceptional performer of the written word. Normally a mellow guy, he transforms as he steps on stage and becomes unleashed, taking on the character within the poem or the role he was asked to play. Last month, Tony's fourth poetry book, The Conflict That Creates, was released from Luchador Press. His other poetry books include Sucker Punch, Wisdom, 2012. That was co-written. And then Aging and Other Side Projects, 2016. And Felt the So Many Times, 2018. Tony loves to play golf and go RV camping. And when it first started, we saw some photos. That is another one of his creative talents. He does photography, and you can find them on his website at www.mentalvalley.com. With that, I'd like us to welcome Tony Plocido.
Hiya.
Hello, good evening. Now, before we begin, let us explain the gist of this giveaway today. You're going to be giving one of your books away in a number game. And whoever comes up closest to your number without going over wins. So each person that is on Zoom, you have to participate, you have to be on Zoom, has one guess between 1 and 75. And you put it in the chat, and at the end, we'll announce the winner. So, to begin, Tony, what book are they going to win?
Conflict That Creates. But it's going to take a couple of weeks because the printer's backed up. And I sold out at my book release. So this one here is a damaged copy. That's why I even have one at all. So.
Oh, I'm not getting you. I'm just seeing myself. Everybody else see him or just me?
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. I got it.
Okay.
I fixed it. Okay.
I was gonna say, I see
do
it.
Do you have the book yourself?
Do I have it? Yeah. But this is a damaged copy.
Okay. Well, that's a really cool cover. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah. So my friend I have a artist friend. Her name is Jenny Hahn, and she did this painting called Portal. And I asked her if I could use it for the cover of my book because it went along with one of the poems I really like in here called Awakened. And so she licensed it out to me to use on the book. This and other of her artwork is available at jennyhahnart.com. You should buy it. Her stuff is amazing and colorful like this. All of her stuff is really colorful. So I wanted a book that would stand out on the shelf, and I think that got accomplished. So.
Well, can we hear a poem from it? What
Ooh.
about, would you like to do White Noise first? Or
Sure,
I'd like,
start right out with the long one, huh?
this is the longest poem he's ever written.
It is the longest poem I've ever written. And here we go. White Noise. It's 11:37, close to midnight. The TV's on and it's for noise. It's white noise, but it's not white noise. It doesn't fade into the background as we drift to sleep. Shit, maybe it is white noise. It will keep making itself known, periodically waking you up to tell you it's there in some suppressed, repressed, racist way. Racist people make me sick. I've made myself sick. I've raced people where the finish line had room for one. I've made comments that were sharpened on the stones that were thrown in the past at people who passed by me on a lunch break or a funeral march. I don't know. I'm not without guilt. I'm guilty of hanging around, and I'm not looking for a jury to hang me. I don't want to be a picture on your wall, the picture of found morality. I'm not that far along, really. I have headphones on listening to black music so I don't hear the buzz, jamming out as I work on projects that are apropos of nothing, like myself. I am still searching for parts to fix this machine, the one I was handed, the one with hands and everything and barely deserving of any of it. What I deserve was probably already given to me. I used it and threw it away, and I'm sure I missed the basket. It was balled up, and someone who wished they had a shred of that had the job of properly disposing of it. This planet is fucking stupid. Look, I say that from a good place. It's fucking stupid. There are hundreds of miles of food growing in the ground, and there are people who fantasize about the last meal they ate because it was the last meal they ate. It was days ago. People who cry at night because the daylight is where the scars are created and shown. Meanwhile, my white ass is ranting about how it sucks when your urologist is hot. Fuck. It's a whole thing. A whole thing that I have the privilege of thinking. I have many boxes checked for me every morning. Over there, wherever there is, someone is hurting because the few boxes they have are full of bullets in the form of talking points, having to say the same shit so that the great white earth doesn't forget they need help. They're happy to help, but they need help. They need sunshine, shelter, and a lawn just like me. They don't want a cross burning on their lawn just like me, except I would think it was a prank or a mistake because my shadow doesn't know hate. It's black and abstract, like the way the world tries to categorize whole generations of people, when I'm a part of generations of people who've owned people to make money that wasn't for the people. I can't really feel justice. I can't be in love with the status quo, especially when the status quo has never been fair. So I stand white and ranting because privilege catches ears where other hues are muted, pleading to nothing, because if you're going to care, you already do. And if you have a right to be angry, then you already are. The rest is the white noise that puts so many to sleep.
Wow. Wow. I'll just take that in for a second. With that, I want to go back. I want to go back all the way to when you wrote your first poem.
Okay.
How old were you?
I was in kindergarten. There's a limerick.
It was a limerick, and you remember it, don't you?
I do remember it, yes.
It
It was called the Man from Peru. There once was a man from Peru who had a little pet shrew. It was very bold, but it had a bad cold. All day it would go achoo.
Oh, that was cute. That was cute. Little kindergarten you.
5 years old.
When did performance start playing a part in your poetry?
Oh, a couple years later in 2010, when I, I went to this event in Kansas City. My friend Lola Nation is her stage name. She invited me down to go to this thing that they were going to try to do, where they're going to try to break a world record of the longest running poetry reading, where it would be 20-minute slots and just continually going for 5.5 days. And so
Wow.
I grabbed a couple of slots and I stayed with her, and then I met an incredible amount of poets, and they liked what I did, and they kept telling me, you should do that and more, keep doing more and go higher. And you know, you have the acting bug in you, just use it, because, excuse me, there's no reason not to. And so I eventually moved to Kansas City for about 1.5 years and worked with a lot of those people and developed my craft a lot better. And then now I try to help other people with it.
That well, what is the importance of performing the performance of poetry? Like, if we were to, what is the history? Let's start with that.
Well, I mean, I'm not a historian by any means, but I do know this, that I've gotten in more than one argument with academics about the importance of performance in poetry, where their strong argument is that poetry is a written art form and performance is extra. And I say, no, you actually have it exactly backwards. Poetry is a performance art that happens to be written down so that we can carry it through time. But if you go back far enough, before there was writing, there was poetry. There was people just, you know, performing poetry so that they could, you know, get across some kind of message or story. It has been a performance art far longer than it's been a written art, and it should be treated as such, I believe.
Totally. And and now if we talked about the importance of a poem, like if we were to say, if somebody read their poem versus somebody else read it. And well, you know, I'm thinking, okay, I'll rephrase that. You told me that there's a certain percentage that people got out of a poem when they read it themselves versus if they actually heard the poet read it. Yeah. And someone that was very good at reading versus somebody that just read it straight out of a book, like mundane.
Yeah, I mean, so and I think I remember the crux of that conversation. The crux of that conversation for me was, if you're going to have a poem and you're going to go up on a stage and read it, and all you do is read it, then I think it's better if you just hand me the book and just let me sit and read it, because at least in my head, I can make the character dance, because every poem has a character, even if it's 100% true story. It's a character, because you don't talk that way. It's not happening right now. Our memories are always approximations of what happened. It's never exactly what happened, with the scattered few, I guess, photographic memory people or eidetic memories. But for the most part, it's just an approximation. And so bring it to life and create the character for everybody. Put us there for that piece. And I don't think enough people do that. And I check out when they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I was lucky to, before the whole pandemic, I was lucky to take a class from you for performance poetry. And it was only one time, but you're going to start those up again when we.
Yeah, I'm hoping by the end of the year I can do it. The space hasn't quite opened back up yet, so.
And you enjoy, very few do, but you enjoy the cold read.
Yes, I very much enjoy the cold read. And I think people are scared of it for not a good enough reason, because I think that if you consider yourself bad at it, let's just say, you know, every time you just pick up a book and try to read it, it's very hard for you to do. That's all the more reason you should do it more, because it is a little bit of a skill in the sense you have to read slightly ahead of what you're saying, because you do need to get cues. There's not verbal cues, written cues about what the author's trying to do. And I don't always do it perfect. I'll stumble all the time, but I enjoy it because, one, I'm getting to know this poem for the first time, just like most of the people hearing it. And that's a lot of fun for me because we're experiencing all this together.
Definitely. Well, I want to do a quick little side note. What does the scorpion and the rabbit mean to you?
Oh, you mean my tattoos?
Mm-hmm.
They are my zodiacs. So everything I ever read about either one, like, I'm not a super horoscope person as far as really do I believe it. I don't think it really makes sense that everybody born in 1975 would be similar, or everybody born in, you know, November or whatever. And so, but just the little details they write about what they're like, it's kind of me. And so I thought, what a cool tattoo idea for my first tattoo. And then I got it in a place that nobody ever sees it because I always have shirts on. And so that's why my other ones are on my arms. There. But
well, and you told me in the realm of poetry that you don't work at it, study it, and barely read it. You just happen to be excellent at performing it. But side note to that is that you do read poetry. You read your friends' poetry.
I do, yeah. I'll buy my friends' books and I'll read it.
But we're basically, the gist of that is that you're not like an academic poet. You're not out there. You haven't gone and studied in how to, you know, and I think that makes you more real.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to knock academics. They study study a lot and they do a lot of work, and they want to. Like, people who go to school for English or poetry or whatever, they want to do that. And that is great. I have no problem with it at all. It's just, for me, it barely interests me. And reading things that are, in general, reading things that are of this world are very boring to me for the most part, because I usually read fantasy novels just because if I'm going to take the time, I want to be taken somewhere else. I don't want to be here anymore. And so, yeah. But if I buy your book, I was interested in your poetry, and so I'm going to read the book, because a little bit selfishly, I'm looking for something else to cover because I like doing covers at shows.
Well, do you have a favorite poem that you've written that you perform?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have heard it a bunch of times, but there's probably some who haven't. It's called Argument.
Can we hear it?
Sure, yeah. It's going to be weird doing it sitting down, but my camera's not really set up for me to run around. So let me do it first. It's called Argument. We've all been, well, probably not here, but close to here. I like to be right. This is what's left of our conversation after our battle. What, I should feel bad about it? I should let sad grab a hold of these untold emotions and let oceans and oceans of history where your pissed at me spill out into tears? Buckets of tears, fuck it, barrels of tears, to the point where it just seems queer. No, that's not a gay joke. I'm not saying this just to stoke you or to provoke you into a fire. That would be the opposite of what I desire. What I want is silence. A blind sense that the world is at peace, that this beast ceased telling me that I suck, that I stuck my foot in it again, as if every sin isn't displayed like the song Crimson and Clover over and over in my fucking head. I feel dead when I'm talking to you. There's no glue to your thought process. It's all, you're going to have to do this. I don't have to do shit. Plus, my head's already broken. It folds in when I try to hold on to a thought. It's wrought with wispy wonders that it understands are things with mass. Did you take a science class? Do you know what I mean? Joy's the steam on this engine and I'm stuck on the tracks and I can't relax. And I can't relax in this state and I can't move to another one. And I think we have a son. I feel like we should have kids. I feel like it's the only explanation for anxiety like this, for you to ride me like this, for you to stand around so proud, ride around my hopelessness like a carnival carousel. I don't think you understand what this ride is. Your pride is misguided and I'm standing 1 foot off the cliff. And your words are the stiff breeze I need to blow me into the heavens. There are 7 stages of grief. And I think you've given me 6. I may have mixed my metaphors. Look, I may have peed in that bed of yours, but that doesn't change the fact that it's my bed too. So I didn't just do it to you. And for that, I've bought myself some silence.
Woohoo! Yeah. What is that? Is that one in one of the books?
It's in the first one.
Oh, it is?
Sucker Punch Wisdom. And that's Jeremy O'Neill, great poet. That's Bill Peck, another great poet. 2 of my favorites in the world, both from Kansas City.
Yeah, because you were living in Kansas City when you.
Yeah, this came out in 2012. When this came out in Halloween 2012. That was the release date.
Would you like to give us a little gist of what you guys did? What the 3 of you did together?
Well, we only have one piece in here that we wrote together, but it doesn't make much sense to read it by myself because it is 3 distinct voices that are supposed to go in tandem. But did you want maybe like something from them?
No, just
or something from me in that book?
Just tell us a little bit about the process of the book.
Oh, of putting it together. Sure. So I went to these 2 guys because I was not super known in KC yet, and they had been sort of old school, been around for a while, but neither one of them had a book yet. So I said, let's do a book together. You'll be helping me out. I'll do the footwork about getting it together because they were really busy guys. And so they honored me by saying yes. And so then the story of the name Sucker Punch Wisdom is kind of funny because we were sitting there jabbering about what the name should be called, because most of these poems in here are about learning from our mistakes in one way or another, but we don't want to call it learning from your mistakes because that's stupid. But then Jeremy came in and he said, how about ramblings, epiphanies, and sucker punches? And we're like, me and Bill looked at each other. We're like, Jeremy, we know what you liked in that was sucker punch. And so we're like, how about Sucker Punch Wisdom? And so that's where we, you get sucker punched, and what do you learn from that?
Yeah, it's a great name.
And then we Googled it and it hadn't been used. I was surprised.
Out of all, I mean, it's hard to find names that haven't been used in this huge world that we live in.
Especially the catchy ones. Yeah.
Well, something I love to learn about you that I had no idea about and didn't even know that people did it. But you foster cats.
Yes.
Now, what's the story behind that? How did that start?
Well, I had a couple of cats. For one, Biko I had for 15 years and Manny I had for 17 and a half years. And when Manny died, I was just like, I do not want to commit to another 20 years of a cat. Because it's a lot. It takes a lot from you. It gives a lot to you, but it takes a lot from you. So I figured, but I was in my house all by myself and I was just like, I do not like being the only living thing in my house because I don't have plants. And so I decided to do the fostering thing where I figured I'd have a cat for a while and then it will go away because somebody will adopt it. And then I'll get another one and another one and another one. And so that's what I've been doing. I'm on a little bit of a hiatus right now because my current roommate adopted the last one I had. So now I just have a cat until the day comes where I don't have a roommate anymore. I have a cat. So it is what it is.
Are you still gonna foster then?
I can't, because the reason I got this cat was because he didn't get along with other cats.
Oh no. So
So
now you have to stop fostering because she kept that.
yeah, I mean, it happens. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, you had let's see. I Who has been inspirational to you? First, let's do life.
In life,
In life.
oh, that'd be my mom for sure. I mean, single mom raised me and my older brother, you know, working all the time, and we had to grow up pretty fast, just, you know, and my brother's 5.5 years older than me, so he was taking care of me for, you know, when mom was at work, and then, you know, then I had to learn to be a latchkey kid real quick, and, you know, so it developed this sort of fierce independence in me, which is good and bad at the same time. I don't get stressed out by the world very much, because I've always had to figure things out when things are going wrong, because often mom was at work, and once Jason was old enough, he was at college, you know, and so or even when he was in high school, he was in extracurriculars. Like, we weren't together as much as we were when we were little, and so it got to the point where I had to figure stuff out, and so now I'm pretty good at figuring stuff out.
Mom is the most inspirational
Yeah,
person.
but she was always supportive. She was supportive of me being independent. She was supportive of, you know, any artistic thing I wanted to do. You know, I dropped out of college. She didn't yell at me. She's just like, you know, figure out what you're going to do. And so I've just been figuring it out, and things have been great.
Now, who has been inspirational to you in the poetry world?
Well, I mean, famous people is probably like Eminem and Tom Waits. Those are like two sides of the coin that I really get into for poetry. But in the real world of poets I know, it's Rachel and Lance Asbury, it's Jeremy O'Neill, it's Bill Peck, it's Jason Reberg. He's also my publisher, which is great. Prim One is a great poet out of KC. Jen Harris used to live in KC. Maybe she does again. I don't remember. Locally here, I like Shane Hawley a lot. I like Sierra DeMulder. I like, oh God, everybody I've ever had on my show. It's amazing, the poetry community here. And it's crazy because I left to go to KC because I couldn't find poets to hang out with and be with. And so I go to KC, I learn a bunch of stuff about poetry, and come back, and now I'm like in the poetry world. And so it's kind of weird, because to me, that I thought this town was empty, and it's so far not empty. Like, it's couldn't be further from the truth.
And when you were on Zoom, you were bringing in poets from Kansas City
and other places too. So yeah, it was kind of, that was honestly the good thing about it. I really didn't like doing Zoom Poets and Pints, as far as like, there's just no energy in the when you're just doing it on Zoom. It wasn't great. The shows were good. Like, there were good poets on the show. No complaint about them at all. Just I get a lot of energy being on stage, which is kind of funny to say, because I had the one show in July, and then this month in August was my book release. So I wasn't the host, but I did get to perform. And then September, October, November are all guest hosted shows. So really, I won't get to do it again until December. So, oh well, it is what it is.
Well, you can help me if you want.
Okay.
Well, and the couple, you mentioned a couple in there are from Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
We're very
They're
big,
my family. Yeah.
Yeah, they but most of all those people moved from Kansas City, didn't they?
Yeah. So yeah, Rachel and Lance Asbury were the first ones to sort of give me a place to stay, help me get my feet in the door at KC, and then until I found my own place. So I actually lived with them, and you know, their daughter I call my little sister. Like, it's like we became family for real. And then Jeremy O'Neill and his wife Sarah, like their family too, they live in Iowa now. Lance and Rachel live in Independence, Kansas. So not Missouri, which is a suburb of KC. They're in Independence, Kansas, which is damn near Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so that, you know, people just, you know, Jason Reberg lives in Salina most of the time. And I don't even think Prim One lives in KC anymore. So it's, yeah, so KC is kind of emptied out from the people I used to hang out with. So not completely. There are people there I know, and when I go there, I visit them.
Is big of a poetry group there anymore, or just?
I honestly can't comment. I really don't know. I mean, I know poets are still running shows, so I assume they're still there. It's just not, the community isn't the one I hung out with. That those people are gone, the ones that I was always with.
Yeah.
But I think there is a community there still, like, but I'm by no means an expert on KC anymore. You know, I moved out of there in 2013, so it's been a while.
I have one of your books, and I had chosen a poem out of here.
Here's this one.
Yes, and The Loose Loop in My Sweater.
Okay. I will read that one. This is a calmer one. The loose loop in my sweater. I am aging. My memories are no longer in color. They are raging black and white visions of nights where I drank too much time. My mind spun with the clock on the wall, and it all should have been better. I still have a sweater with a loop of loose yarn from when I was young. It's hung in the 20-some closets I've had since the shirt got snagged. So frivolous in how I zagged and I zigged. It's vagabondage with privilege. And with all this movement, part of my life missed the target. It's far-fetched to think that I possibly took it all in, that there aren't some winds that I left on the table because I was unable to see the forest for the trees. Life isn't short, but it's fleeting, and I'll be damned if I know the meaning. These words float with me like a ghost of a friend who just gets me. I've been running out of time for 29 or 30 years now. It's crazy how different fear feels now. It used to be an engine, now it's a weight, the great invisible monster that only fosters rigidity. The id in me barely wants pleasure. When you can measure life in years or tears or places you've been, why then have I felt the need to see life in the way of a picture? Its structure was created when I was young, and it's hung on a mental wall, and it's all I ever wanted. It's this 16 by 20. It's sunny. There's me, my wife, and kids. We have 3. They're the kind where it's hard to imagine how I ever lived in an apartment. There's a large fence, and the kids are playing, and the wife isn't saying anything. She just looks at me until I see the kind of love that people write poems about. I figured out that it only seems simple. In reality, it takes every part of me to even imagine the picture. The mixture of emotions has got me reeling, and there's a small feeling of falling apart. I didn't start this way. I didn't start life this way, full of dismay, regret, and bullshit. But somehow I've hit on this note of loathing. I keep folding in on myself when I should blossom. And I think back on the awesome. Those nights where I drank too much time. Unfortunately, in my mind, I only remember the spaces.
Oh, you're good at those endings, and they just go.
Try. I really try.
um,
By the way, my little sister's on this call.
was she?
Yes. The one with the same last name as me, that's my little sister.
We haven't touched on Poets and Pints at all. So
What do
you
want to touch on?
I was just gonna say you started with them in 2018, right?
No, I got involved in 2016, which I got asked to be on the show. And then from there, I started working with David Bayless, who is one of the co-founders of the show and started the show and ran it forever. And I was sort of his assistant. I would help him plan the shows. I would help him run the shows, but he was the host and he was the curator, and I just sort of assisted him. And then in 2019, or actually late 2018, he came to me and he asked me if I wanted to do the show, and because he didn't want to do it anymore. And I said, absolutely. It's totally what I want. And so there was no hesitation. I took it immediately, and I was really happy that I did. And we've been running ever since. In fact, it was kind of funny though, because his last show was the February of 19. And then in March of 19, I let Mike Finley do guest spot and guest curating spot. And so I really didn't get to do a show until April, even though technically it was given to me in February. So, but I'm glad we got Mike Finley in before he passed. Rest in peace.
That's the one I was a part of, wasn't it?
Probably. He planned it. I don't have them all memorized. There's been too many.
Yeah, I think that he only did one with there, right?
I think so. Might have did two, but he only did one recently.
Okay. And then you brought in the cracked walnut aspect.
Yep. As soon as I took over the show, I went to the League of Minnesota Poets, and more specifically Cracked Walnut, which is one of the Twin Cities chapters, and said, do you want to have a show under your belt, just so that we can say, you're featuring it and we can be part of that. And then I also joined the board. So I am on the Cracked Walnut board as well. And then I sit in as a representative from Cracked Walnut on the League of Minnesota Poets executive board, though I don't believe I'm a voting member, but I lose track of what, but I'm kind of on both boards, but I'm definitely on the Cracked Walnut.
And the cracked walnut's just it started separate than the league, and then joined the league.
Yeah, they also joined the league at some point. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. And then you do announcing and other they pull you in to do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm the person who will host anything you want me to host. I really love hosting. I really love being on stage, and so they have no qualms about asking me to present or whatever if they need somebody to do it. They don't always ask me. I'm not the only person they ask. I don't want to make it seem like I'm their only person, but they definitely do ask me to do stuff, and I'm happy to do it if I can.
And to help organize some of the events and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely.
That's
Although
well,
the event that we have coming up this month that Donna, who's on this call, is putting together, it's basically been her, I have not helped out as much as I should, and it's because I've been crazy busy with the book release and work. And so Donna, if you can hear me, I apologize for not helping out as much as I thought I was going to, but usually, yes.
Are you talking about the fall conference?
No, not the fall conference. It's there was two other shows, Literary Lights and Bridges Literary Series that Stanley Kuzanowski was doing. Well, they merged now, and they're kicking that off at Next Chapter Books this month. I don't even have the date memorized, but Donna, if you
It's the 12th. I remember.
It's the 12th. Yes,
12th.
There it is. And so that's not this weekend, next weekend. So
Yep.
Go to it if you can. I think that there'll be snacks, and that should be a reason to go right there. Oh, and
It's
then
in the
poetry.
afternoon. It's in the
Poetry as
afternoon.
well. Yeah.
They have
afternoon.
quite a few people that they're bringing in quite a few poets. I remember.
Yep. They wanted to kick it off right, and I applaud the effort.
Mhm. Well, do you have a reading set aside, a 5-minute little reading?
I'm sure I could figure one out. So.
Oh, wait, before we start that,
Okay.
we've gotten a lot of people that have come in since we started, and I just wanted to say that we're having a giveaway. Tony's giving one of his books away. So in the chat, you can put one guess, and you got 1 to 75. So and you get one guess, and you can't go over, but so Tony picked the number. That's it. Okay.
I've actually said the number since I've been talking. So I gave you the answer. It's just whether or not you were paying attention. All right. So here's a poem that River asked that I read because she liked it, and so I'm going to read it. It's from the new book. It's called How Water Sees the Stone. And I don't think I read this at my release, so I'm glad that you picked this one. Drinking soda is a bad idea. Okay. How water sees the stone. Does she have to be the sea? Her fluidity leaves me nowhere to stand. A man without a shore, this hand could use 4 more hands that could catch her. And I'm sure that she doesn't care or notice. She just floats this idea of freedom, a grand scale, and a wee sum, all swirled together. It seemed like forever to get her to her particular part of the ocean. Earthbound in hope and closed thoughts opened the way for this pattern. I had earned her trust and then thrust my insecurities into her pocket. They weighted her feet and her eye sockets, and I could have stopped it. I chose to dissent, to disagree, essentially to flee my responsibilities, and she stayed here, floating in the sea of fear, riding the waves and the tide, choosing not to hide from her detractors, choosing to fight her attackers, choosing to take and stack the deck in her favor. Stupid me to try to be a savior, when all I could do is stand, and only, okay, let me try that again. Stupid of me to try to be her savior, when all I could do is stand, and only when there was land. The hand I held out was only of doubt, in the form of a palm, and she chooses calm. There's simply no way to argue. So I'll read the one that is on the back here. So a quote from it's on the back of the book, and why I chose this picture. It's called Awakened. If you can't find time in the middle of the night to build yourself up when no one's watching, you will notice the deterioration. The slow melt of time. I'm not saying it will get better. I don't know if it will. I do know that it can get better. They say there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. But it's not at the end of the tunnel. The light is everywhere but the tunnel. So stay out of the tunnel. Tell yourself that every wrinkle is a story, not a curse. Clean the mirror before you use it. Your reflection has earned that much. Because you're up now. And the wee hours are when people can feel small. But you're a giant in your world. Every last bit of you deserves to be awakened. Let's see. What's another one I didn't read? I like this one. This is one of the older ones in this book too. It's called Precipitation. There's often sadness at the ends of her sentences. It sounded like rain coming through the roof. It could have been relaxing if there wasn't a slow destruction happening. She liked to hold my hand when she spoke of stubborn subjects like love or yesterday. She said it kept her from drifting. I would catch her drift, so I would speak of center lines and lanes and how to drop this nonsense. I mean, we had to share the road. I used to dream that she would talk to me back before I knew how much her accent would affect me. Like this weather. I wanted to stay dry, but that's not what rain does.
Hmm.
And one more.
Yeah.
Okay. I will read this. So I wrote this for my friend as if he was saying this to his now wife. It's called What He Says to Her. So this is coming from his point of view, in my estimation. There is something weird or impossible about this. Like having three halves of something, like finding Ginny Hoffa in King Tut's tomb. It works though. There's life and love here. It's growing where I thought Earth was salted. It's filling me up, but not like I'm sinking, more like a balloon. The city looks wonderful from up here. The lights are all on and I hear music. The city that has shown me darkness. The city where my address was only isolation at times. Your voice, I could always hear. Even amongst the quiet clatter or loud noises that followed me around. I never really got too far away, no matter what I told myself. For most people, there isn't love like this. To most people, we are anomalies and a pile of odds and ends. To me, there is no pile. There are no more ends. Just this beginning, this something weird, this something impossible.
Mm. Nice. Well, I think that we should see who's won the book.
Is there any,
Julie?
no
Does
questions?
anybody?
Greg had a question. Greg, do you want to bring it up or should I read the question you typed in the chat?
Is he?
5 seconds, Greg. 5 seconds. I think you should read it.
I think so.
Okay, his comment was, oh, there's Greg now. Greg, are you going to read your question or do you want me to share it?
He's muted. Just go ahead and read it.
Okay, he says cracked walnut was something Peter Stein had his eye on, and I'm not sure if this is a typo, you gelled it. Are you ever overwhelmed?
Am I ever overwhelmed? Not by this stuff. I get overwhelmed by work and other things at times, but the poetry stuff is just what I want to do. I want to make sure that everybody hears the best poets in town, if I can at all help it. And so being part of organizations that can possibly do that. Now, there are poets that are really good that aren't part of the League of Minnesota Poets as well. But I try to bring them all together and on my show, at least, which is part of Cracked Walnut, which is part of the League of Minnesota Poets. So that's what I do. I would get overwhelmed, but that's why I do like the guest curated shows. So I only have to do 5 or 6 shows a year.
Charles,
I do have.
patient with his hands up. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I know in your book, your new one, I wish you'd spend a little time with your contrarian comments at your footnotes. I'm not sure what you even call them.
Yeah, notes
they kind of critique the poem in a lot of ways, and I think it's a really interesting tactic. I wonder how you came about it.
Well, and just for those who don't have the book, so like for example on Awaken, there's a little note at the bottom here that says, warning, always look both ways before crossing the tracks, especially when deciding what direction to take your life next. And the reason why I did that was it started out with one poem that I had it on because I wanted people to understand that I'm not a dickhead and that it was satire. And so it was the one that called Trolls Regenerate Unless You Burn Them. And so at the bottom of that one, it says, this poem was a work of satire. If you feel the need to cancel me over this piece or unfriend you, unfriend me, I encourage you to look up the meaning of the word satire. So, and I did that on one, and I was like, you know, I could just do this on all of them, and it'd be kind of funny, and I've never seen it before. And so I did it, and it worked out.
Cool. Well, Julie, who won?
Charlie Curry came the closest.
Ooh,
What did
and
you
you
guess?
have the book already.
Yeah. Well, I got this one. I also have Sucker Punch, so I'm not sure he's got any of the other ones left.
Oh, you don't have this one?
No.
And you have felt this so many times. You have this one.
I have the Sucker Punch Wisdom, and I have your new one. I think
Oh, you
that's it.
didn't, you never got this one the last time?
I don't think so.
This is the book before the one that's out right now.
I do not think I have that.
Oh, well, shit. Yeah, I'll send you that one.
Marvelous.
This one's tiny. It's not much of a giveaway.
So Charles,
Could I-
put
could
your
I just one more
put your
question?
address. Put your
Oh, yeah.
address in.
Yeah, I actually have it already because he bought
Yeah.
the book. He pre-ordered.
Message it to Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony,
Rick
can I
has
ask?
another question though.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to know if you think that the direction of the poetry, you know, we're having, okay, you do the Poets and Pints thing over at Sisyphus, and we know that that has, you know, we're going through some Delta variants that are very bizarre right now. In England, we're seeing some results through Dr. John Campbell that don't look encouraging. We may all get COVID, ha, ha. But anyway, the fact is, I know you had it, and it's something that may be longer and shorter for some of us. Now, meeting in person, I know that you don't like Zoom, and yet a lot of these venues are not meeting in person. The competition for being out there, we want to be a spoken word. I know that you're a great spoken word artist, and I've been to your classes. Just briefly then, just tell me, what do you think the direction is going to be so that we can do this in a more equal, you know, safe fashion, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, I'm a firm believer that the venue, so if the venue isn't requiring people to be vaccinated, I don't feel like, I mean, I probably could. But everybody I know that was there was vaccinated. And so, or they lied about it. I guess that's a possibility.
30% of the people that are fully vaccinated have 2 shots, 30% hospitalized in Minnesota. So we know it's not working as well as we'd
Yeah.
like, although we need to do a breakthrough study.
Well,
we
and I guess my point, point is if I have the event and you don't feel comfortable coming because of COVID, then don't. I mean, this last event, I did put it out on YouTube as well. So I set up a camera or whatever for the people who didn't want to show, and I set it up. So, and I try to do that. And next time I'm probably try to even do it better because I forgot my microphone. So you had to listen to it through the little tiny microphone on the laptop, and it didn't come out great. So hopefully next one will be even better.
Okay. Hope I'm not giving you too much of a hard time. I just want to bring up the health issues because my wife is an epidemiologist or retired.
Gotcha. No, I mean, it's a valid question. I mean, I just don't have a great answer.
Yeah.
I think it's important we wear masks. That's what I say.
Yeah, well, that's my favorite colloquialism, the one you just said, just because I don't want to think of another one. Sorry, he put a question in the chat and he's messing with me.
Well, everybody, it is 8 o'clock.
Holy cow. Right on the dot.
And I don't know who's the up close poet next month. I'm still working on it. So
Well, I
stay
appreciate
tuned.
everyone
Oh,
coming.
All right.
yes. And thank you for sharing your story with us, Tony. And I started a Facebook page for Up Close. If I send it out there, please like it or whatever you're supposed to do with it. And I also started a YouTube channel to get it over to there. I did not pull it off today, but I will. But anyways, thank you everybody for coming.
I'm gonna go eat food now.
I know I got
Grace
Take
and
care.
peace, y'all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
mentalvalley.com. Buy the book. Okay, bye.